Okay, so we'll be just revising the last 2 week topics. Okay, today I'll be showing you something more about mandibular movements. Okay, along with that, we'll revise what we took in the last two classes. That is about the anatomy and histology of TMJ and the various movements that are possible with the mandible. Okay, so if you see this picture, you can see that it shows a view of the maxilla, the mandible, and the TMJ. Okay, so this together is called the stomatognathig system. Stomato refers to the oral cavity, gnathic refers to the jaw bones. Okay, so this is just a small video which shows you the movement of the mandible. So if you see this movements carefully, you know this is the condylar process of the mandible. This is the coronoid process. Yes, if you have any queries, you can just type it in chat. So you have the maxilla which is fixed to the cranial base, and you have the mandible which is suspended by the muscles and ligaments. So, okay, so if you see the condyle articulates with the articular fossa, and you have the articular disc that is between the mandibular condyle and the articular fossa. So your TMJ is nothing but a joint between the articular fossa of the temporal bone with the condylar process of the mandible interposed with the articular disc. So if you see, whenever the mandible is moving, you can see the disc also moves along with the condyle. So whenever this movement is not happening properly, you end up with disease. Okay, so is that clear? So this is your okay, so this is nothing but a snapshot of how the mandible moves, because last week I told you about various movements of mandible that is possible with the help of muscles of mastication. Okay, so whenever you see the mandible is like this. It is suspended by muscles and ligaments against the cranial base. So if the muscles doesn't coordinate properly, the movement of the mandible is also not possible. Okay, so the mandible is suspended by the muscles of mastication. So whenever you see the various muscles of mastication, I have already told you, you have the masseter, which is attached to the outer border of the ramus. You have the medial pterygoid, which is attached to the inner aspect of the mandibular ramus. You have the lateral pterygoid that is attached to the neck of the condyle, and you also have the temporalis, which is attached to the coronoid process. And if you remember the attachments I told you, they start from the cranial vault, the sides of the maxilla, even the zygomatic process and the temporal bone, and they get attached to the mandible. So if you see here, you have the masseter, this is the masseter muscle, and you have the temporalis which is behind. Then you have the middle pterygoid which is attached to the inner aspect of the ramus, and the lateral pterygoid is attached to the condyle. So whenever a mandible is moving, it is because of a coordinated movements between all these muscles of mastication. And if you look carefully, you have the hyoid bone and you have the suprahyoid muscles which will help the muscles of mastication during the mandibular movement. So whenever you read mandibular movements or muscles of mastication, you remember there are 4 major muscles which are supported by the suprahyoid group of muscles. Okay, so if you are going to see the TMJ in closer view, I told you it contains the articular disc, articular fossa, and the mandibular condyle. As I said, it is a synovial joint of condylar variety. And if you're going to see the articular surface, the upper portion is from the temporal bone. So, and you can see this. This is the articular tubercle, which is the elevation. Then you also have the articular fossa, which is a depression, and it is encased by the other processes of the temporal bone. And this is the condylar head of the mandible. And this articular surface is covered by fibrocartilage. So if you're going to see this picture, you can see that this is the articular surface of the temporal bone. This is the condylar process of the mandible, and you have the articular disc in between, which has the superior joint cavity and the inferior joint cavity. And if you see, this is the muscle of lateral pterygoid, which gets inserted onto the articular disc, and this is the other portion of the lateral pterygoid that is attached to the neck of the condyle. Okay, so if you see here, superior and inferior joint compartments separated by the articular disc. Then you have the various ligaments, which is shown in this video. And if you see, the condyle is encapsulated by a fibrous capsule, okay, which covers the entire joint and prevents the vibration, and it also prevents overextension or displacement of the condyle. It also has a lateral ligament. It also has the sphenomandibular ligament and a stylomandibular ligament. So all these ligaments are accessory ligaments that helps to support the mandible, and it helps to support the muscles of mastication during mandibular movements. Okay. You have the fibrous capsule, which I already told you, and this is the articular fossa. And this is the articular tubercle is the elevation, and this is the mandibular fossa, and your condyle is present inside this space. Okay. You have the neck of the mandible where your lateral pterygoid muscle is inserted. Okay. If you see here, the capsule is loose above the articular disc and it is tight below the articular disc. So what happens is the upper joint cavity is bit more mobile than the lower joint cavity. And as I told you, the synovial membrane is the one that secretes the synovial fluid, which acts like a lubricant, which will help the movements of the mandible without any friction. Okay. You also have the lateral ligament of the temporomandibular joint that strengthens the capsule. So this is the lateral ligament. And if you see, the fibers are directed downwards and backwards. So it's almost like it wraps up the condyle. Okay. Then you have the sphenomandibular ligament, which runs from the sphenoid and gets attached to the inner aspect of the ramus of the mandible, superior to the alveolar foramen. Okay, so it runs from the spine of the sphenoid to the lingual of the mandible, which is closer to the mandibular foramen. Then you have the accessory ligament, which is a thickening of the cervical fascia, which is covering the neck. So this is your stylomandibular ligament. It runs from the styloid process to the posterior border of the mandibular ramus. Okay. Then you have the articular disc, which is inside the TMJ, and it has a slip of the lateral pterygoid ligament muscle, which gets inserted onto the articular disc. So the upper portion permits gliding and the lower compartment permits rotation and gliding. So if you look carefully, so the upper one is for gliding, the lower compartment help in both rotation and gliding. Okay, and the periphery of the disc is attached to the capsule, which encapsulated the entire TMJ. Okay, so this disc, as I told you, prevents the friction between the moving mandibular condyle and the articular fossa. It also helps as a shock absorber to absorb the vibrations during mandibular movement. It also stabilizes the condyle by filling up the space between the articular fossa and the mandibular head. Okay, so is that clear? Any doubts till now? If you have any doubts, you can ask that in the message. Any doubts? You understood it, just a revision, so I don't want to take the same thing what it took last class.
Yes, sir.
So, any doubts till now?
No, sir.
No,
Is
sir.
is it clear? So we have showed you what is the various components of the TMJ. Then I've showed you the various muscles of mastication, and I also showed you the articular disc and its supporting ligaments. Okay. So this is the same video which is playing again. So whenever you read a articular disc, so this is how it looks in cross section. You have the mandibular condyle which is below. You have the articular disc that is interposed between the mandibular condyle and the articular fossa. And this glenoid fossa is almost filled up with the articular disc with a superior and inferior joint cavities. And you have a anterior zone. Then you have the posterior zone and you have an intermediate zone. So whenever the mandible is moving, it is in relationship between these various zones of the articular disc. Okay, and this is your condyle, articular disc, the superior and inferior joint cavities. Okay, so your mandible usually moves across this articular fossa. So whenever you're going to grind the teeth during mastication, the maxilla is fixed. Your mandible has to move three-dimensionally to grind the food in a proper manner. So what happens is, so if you're going to see, already told you the muscles of mastication in the last class. The main muscles are your masseter, which is attached to the outer border of the ramus. Then you have the medial pterygoid, which is attached to the inner aspect of the mandibular ramus. Then you have the temporalis, which is attached to the coronary process of the mandible. You have the lateral pterygoid, which is attached to the neck of the condyle and to the articular disc. So whenever a mandible is moving in front, it is called protrusion. When the mandible is going behind, it is called retrusion. Whenever the mandible is coming, opening the mouth is called depression of the mandible, and whenever a mandible is closed, it is called elevation of the mandible. And you have side to side lateral movements that is also possible, which is because of a coordinated movements between the muscles on the left and right. So when you're going to see a mandible, you can see that, remember that swing which I showed you, it is like a mandibula is suspended like a swing. The ropes correspond to the muscles of mastication. You can see the mandible moves in three axes. It moves in the horizontal, vertical, and Z, X, Y, and Z axis. So this movement is possible because of a coordinated movements between the muscles of mastication supported by these accessory muscles or a suprahead group of muscles. Okay. So whenever a mandible moves, it can move in three planes. It works in the horizontal axis, it can work in a vertical axis, it can also work in the sagittal axis. So these three-dimensional movements of the mandible is possible because of its various muscles of mastication. So if you see here, remember that if the condyle passes a straight line, the mandible can rotate along both the condyles, usually move simultaneously at the same time. Okay, so you have the horizontal axis which runs through the condylar process. Then you have the vertical axis which acts along a line perpendicular to the condyle and it is bilaterally separate. So what happens is it can rotate on the left and it can glide on the right. So those both movements are simultaneously possible. Okay, so this is your vertical axis, and then you have a sagittal axis which runs along the head of the condyle but in a antero-posterior direction, which helps the mandible to move in front. Okay, that is protrusion and retrusion. So you have the sagittal axis. So whenever we are going to see a mandible, you can see that the mandible can move towards the left it can move towards the right. So mandibular movement. So if you look at this movements carefully, so this is how the mandible comes back to its centric relation. Centric relation is the relationship between the maxilla and the mandibular teeth when the mandible is at rest. Okay, so if you look carefully, the mandible starts moving towards the left, then it opens wide, then while coming back it shifts towards the right, and it comes back to intercuspation. The teeth come into contact. So if you look carefully, you can see whenever mandibular movement starts, the mandible moves towards one aspect, opens wide, maximum mouth opening, then you make the mandible move to the other side, and finally it comes to intercuspation. So this is how you record the centric relation when we are going to plan to replace the missing teeth. So this movement is very important. Okay, so this is how you trace the movement of the mandible. So this is your ICP represents your intercuspal position. Okay, so this is which will be taking in detail in prosthodontics. They'll teach you in detail, but for now you just remember this pattern. So these are the various movements that are possible with the mandible before recording the mandibular relation. Okay. So if you see, this is how the mandible. So R represents the right, L represents the left. So what happens is this represents the maximum mouth opening. So you make the patient open the mouth as wide as possible. Then try to shift the mandible to the right to record where the teeth comes into contact. Then come into complete intercuspal position. Then move again to the left, again move wide, and they have to close. So this is how you record the mandibular movement whenever you are going to replace the missing teeth. So they will take this in detail whenever you go to second year and third year. This is a separate chapter in prosto where they'll be teaching you how to record the various mandibular movement. But right now I just want you to understand that your mouth is suspended by the mandible, which is down. Okay, so this movement is supported by various muscles of mastication. Okay, and you record the maximum possible movements with the mandible before replacing and fabricating the teeth which are present. Okay, so this jaw relation is very important whenever you're planning to replace a missing teeth. So what happens is you have the relationship of the maxilla and the mandible, and what happens is, so whenever the mandible is moving, so what happens is, can you see this? So this is what happens when your mandible moves along with the maxilla. When the teeth are lost, that is patient does not have any teeth, what happens? Patient starts moving the mandible in front because he cannot occlude without teeth. So the mandible is drawn in front so that the patient usually chews using the front. So can you see this movement? What happens? So when the patient starts losing the teeth, the mandible shifts anteriorly and it comes to an anterior relationship than normal. So when the patient loses the teeth, the yellow portion represents the alveolar bone, which is lost due to resorption. The mandible is shifted forward so that the patient's biting pattern and the mandibular relationship changes. So that is why whenever you're going to replace a missing tooth, you must make sure that the mandibular relationship is recorded in normal and try to restore the occlusion back to normal. Okay. So this is an articulator, which is a device which they'll be using in prosto to reconstruct the mandibular movements and to restore the teeth to occlusion. And this, the black line is your face bow, which will help you to transfer the axial relationship between the mandible to the cranial base so that you can reproduce the mandibular movements normally. Okay, so is it clear? Any doubts?
No, sir.
So this is nothing but, yes, if you have any doubts, you can message me in chat. And you can just enter your roll numbers in the chat also, so that I can save your attendance. So all the first years, enter up your roll numbers. And if anybody has any doubts, yes, Ankur, you have any doubt? You can ask me.
No, sir. No doubt.
Okay, so anybody else, is this clear? Medial pterygoid. So she is asking, where is medial pterygoid? Medial pterygoid is a medial pterygoid is a muscle which is present So the medial pterygoid is a opposite antagonist to your masseter. The masseter is attached to the outer aspect of the ramus. Similarly, on the inner aspect of the ramus, that is on the lingual side, you have the medial pterygoid, which covers the inner aspect of the mandibular ramus. So both your masseter and medial pterygoid holds the mandible together, which will help you in mandibular movements. Okay. So is it clear, Shrishti? So anybody has any other doubts? So if you see here, the medial pterygoid muscle is attached to the inner side of the ramus, whereas a masseter is attached to the outer side of the ramus. Okay. Okay. So this meeting is going to finish. So if in case you have any doubts, you can re-log in and you can ask me. Okay.
Okay, sir.